Thank you to Sega and Atlus for sponsoring this video. Metaphor ReFantazio is available now, and there's a prologue demo I'd recommend checking out, and if you enjoy it, your save carries over to the full game. And in the description is an affiliate link where you can purchase the game to support my channel, or download the prologue demo. Sega and Atlus wanted me to promote the game, and if there's one thing I'd want to talk about, it would be what got me on board with the game months ago, a job system done by Atlus. Metaphor ReFantazio is Atlus's take on high fantasy, and comes to us from the folks behind Shin Megami Tensei and its other series like Digital Devil Saga, Soul Hackers, and of course, Persona 3, 4, and 5. Earlier this week, we already saw the game receive a 94 on Metacritic and 9s and 10s among many outlets. Metaphor is a mechanical celebration aiming to bring many signature mechanics from the team's past games and adapting some conventional JRPG themes and mechanics to make something that SMT players and other JRPG players will recognize. The foundation of this mesh is Metaphor's job system. When we start the game on the Archetype tree, we'll count 14 lineages with 39 jobs known as archetypes, akin to demons or personas, within the lineages that progressively build on their predecessors. In this video, we're going to get a primer on the first 6 of 14 lineages available, which are all playable in the demo: Seeker, Knight, Warrior, Healer, Mage, and Brawler. If you would like to see coverage on the rest of the archetypes in the game, just like what I do here, be sure to show your support with a like or comment and let me know. The first archetype of each lineage is unlocked via forming a bond with someone, and the other archetypes are unlocked through other means such as quests. Metaphor has some familiar Persona mechanics with time management via a calendar system where you'll be increasing your royal virtues, increasing bond ranks which aren't point-based like Persona, traveling via gauntlet runner, and dungeon crawling. It's worth noting that there will be many dungeons in the game, so much so that doing them in one day would have to be more encouraged than ever, and so SP or MP management should get significantly easier earlier compared to past SMT titles. Before you go into dungeons, you'll be able to buy info to plan accordingly, as well as see what other party compositions other players have been utilizing. Archetypes unlock new skills at certain ranks. Moreover, when you hit rank 20, any additional XP will be turned into XP consumables. Action combat is used for getting player advantage, though the enemy can also get advantage. And by advantage, we mean opening the battle with an entire bonus turn of actions. It's also used for immediately defeating weak enemies. The weapon you'll use in action combat is determined by your equipped lineage. For squad battles, Metaphor features the press turn battle system introduced in Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, a double-edged sword system that functionally puts the player and enemy on even ground. When either you or the enemy's turn start, they'll typically start with a number of actions determined by how many units are active on their side. The system heavily rewards one side, while punishing the other, for exploiting crits or weaknesses by giving them an extra half turn, and then heavily punishes one side, while rewarding the other, or missing or blocking attacks, which takes an extra turn away. To add more nuance, guarding takes up an action, but passing only takes up half. If you're not familiar with press turn, you may be familiar with front and back rows. These were in the Etrian Odyssey games, but the mechanic predates them. In the back row, you take less physical damage from both basic attacks and skills, but you also deal less physical damage, with some exceptions. All magic is inherently ranged, so this doesn't impact magic unless it's specifically physical magic. Now with archetypes, you have a lot of flexibility to cover an archetype's weakness or amplify their strengths. One of those ways is through inherited skills that can come from any other archetype you unlock the skills of, which is very handy for affinity dodges and passives. And then there's synthesis attacks that are not unlike Digital Devil Saga's combos. These are special techniques available through specific archetypes being in the party. They're powerful with the trade-off of consuming a turn icon for each participant. Each archetype here also wholly complements one of the 5 main stats, barring Seeker, who's an all-arounder, and Healer due to healing potency not being affected by your magic stat, and there's not one here dedicated to agility either. Some lineages have what I would call a lineage bonus, where they have some passive percentage buff to something like attack, crit rate, or even HP and MP regen, and their effect is increased depending on how many party members are of the same lineage, with diminishing returns. Keep in mind that it only seems that the base archetypes have these, so if you want these bonuses on anyone else, you'd have to use an inherited skill slot for them. Now, with all that groundwork laid out, let's get to the lineages. In action combat, the Seeker lineage has a passive that raises the chance for a teammate to do a support attack. The Seeker has average stats and has a versatile skill set that can heal, use wind magic, and buff an ally's attack. At max rank, they get a skill to negate an enemy's physical repel skill. They have a lot of synthesis attacks. Notable ones can increase the party's attack and even crit rate alongside a heavy strike attack. The second archetype in the lineage, meanwhile, brings a variety of affinities with powerful synthesis skills as well as Heat Riser for buffing the party. They'll also be able to buff an ally's attack and defense at the same time, and it's by 2 ranks. And yes, attack, defense, hit, evasion buffs and debuffs in this game stack up to 3. Let me tell you, if you're unfamiliar with these games, these buffs and debuffs are a big deal, at least provided that killing an enemy outright wouldn't be faster. The final archetype will be able to restore MP when landing their wind and fire spells, as well as their almighty synthesis skills, buff all allies' crit rates at once, and Heat Riser to buff everything for one party member.
No holding back!
With Warrior, in action combat, enemies can't land preemptive strikes on you while you're swinging your greatsword. Warrior gets a multi-hitting physical slash skill and slash boost. The lineage has notable synthesis skills where if you land a killing blow, it will grant you an extra turn, and this effectively recovers the extra cost of the synthesis. To do AoE, they depend on synthesis as well. However, the second archetype does offer AoE slash skills. Additionally, the second archetype at max rank gets a passive for increasing the power of basic attacks by 50%, which is something that would help you manage MP. The last archetype is when Warrior gets its utility with auto-buffed attack, can buff their own attack or hit evasion by 3 ranks, health regen, and a passive to halve damage taken, though they won't be able to dodge.
Let's do this!
From action combat, the Knight lineage grants a chance to reflect enemy attacks. Knights are capable of drawing enemy aggro, which when combined with being in the back row makes them capable of effective tanking. Don't sleep on this aggro pulling ability either, because it is capable of limiting the movesets of weaker enemies. They've also got a heal that can't be used in combat, and they have passives to increase defense as well as auto buff the wielder's defense at the start of battle. The Knight gets 1 attack and it's at their max rank. It's a weak strike that decreases an enemy's hit evasion for 3 turns. Otherwise, they'll need to rely on synthesis to deal damage effectively. They've also got synthesis for nullifying either 1 physical attack or 1 magic attack. Their second archetype is more capable of healing via healing party members in the same row, buffing defense, and repelling physical with Tetrakarn. Knights actually branch off in 2 different archetypes from there. One is more equipped to defend against physical, while other is magic. They both have other important skills as well, like the physical one can regen MP and remove debuffs, and even protect against magic with synthesis, while the magic one has a passive for buffing the wielder's attack, defense, and hit evasion at the start of battle, in addition to a good pierce attack with pierce boost.
Let me help.
In action combat, healers can restore HP for every support attack. Healers are equipped with light magic, can heal the party, cure ailments, and remove debuffs. Some skills will be notable for inheriting, such as light dodge and health regen. They have a notable synthesis skill that can nullify an attack that would inflict a status ailment for all party members. Their second archetype gets a passive that increases the potency of healing, and they'll be capable of reviving party members as well as AoE healing. Their final archetype's healing potency continues getting stronger, and additionally has a skill to allow an ally to endure a fatal attack once per battle.
Let's do this!
In action combat, mages recover MP each time an enemy is stunned or defeated. Mages have a myriad of magic and passives for more MP and increasing magic damage. All of their synthesis skills utilize different types of magic. I think it's worth noting, items are pretty powerful and accessible in Metaphor, so Healer and Mage gotta make up for this with other valuable strengths. The second archetype gets a passive where when they have an active buff on them, they'll also get solid MP regen as well as a passive for increased strength and hit rate of synthesis skills. They also have a synthesis for negating the enemy's repel magic skill. Later on, Mages branch off to 2 different archetypes, one with a variety of strong spells that has a passive to have the MP cost of synthesis, and the other specializing in dark magic capable of negating magic repel, greatly increasing the user's magic attack once per battle, MP regen for defeating enemies, and forcing a elemental weakness onto an enemy for 1 attack. Now out of these 5 archetypes, the Brawler is my favorite. Brawler uses fists and have a passive that lets them stun stronger enemies easier. So what makes Brawlers unique is that they actually spend HP on their physical skills in Synthesis, which is unique because physical skills in Metaphor normally cost MP. These make for good skills for other jobs to inherit, such as Knights who have less risk with their naturally higher endurance. They also get great passives that can be used to increase crit rate and for evasion to strike. And their second archetype gets nice passives for increased crit rate when mortally wounded, strike boost, and even preventing enemies from critting them alongside a medium pierce attack that lowers defense and a synthesis skill that hits 2 to 4 times. Their last archetype is capable of removing and even preventing some ailments on themselves. They also have a heavy pierce attack that'll lower defense and a passive for an ally to endure a fatal blow via restoring them to full HP, once per battle of course. They've also got a synthesis for giving an enemy strike weakness for 1 attack. Brawler is ultimately my favorite because of their crit potential, especially when that potential can be lent to other archetypes. And like I always say, if they don't block or repel physical, then they're weak to physical. And there are still 8 more lineages we haven't talked about, and still potential tech even with the ones we did discuss. The robust job system functions as a malleable puzzle defined by the challenges you'll face, and your own creativity. And as you get deeper in, the deeper the strategies and variety you'll see enable you to push the job system further. If you'd like to see more Metaphor coverage, let me know, but for now, that's all I've got for you. Thank you again to Sega and Atlas for sponsoring this video. Metaphor ReFantazio is available now, and you can purchase it or download the free prologue demo to try the game out first, with the links in the description. And until next time, thank you for watching.